Hello, everyone. So today we are going to start the topic, which is the Azure function, and I will try to cover all the important aspects of those. So who am I? My name is Shadab, and I'm Microsoft Certified Trainer and Microsoft Cloud Architect, having 14 years of experience in Azure, .NET, and BizTalk Server. Okay, here is some link which you can refer as well. Okay, so you can just follow us on YouTube. If you have any query, you can write us on the email. You can follow us on Telegram and WhatsApp if you want any question. We'll try to answer those questions over there if you have any doubt. Okay, so moving it to Azure function, what Azure function is. Okay, so anyone knows about the background of Azure function, or uh, anyone know about the AWS Lambda function? Anyone, if want to answer those?
Hi Shadab, this is Karthik.
Yeah.
So, from my understanding, any long-running functions or any processing along, apart from simple logic, we put it in Azure, and that will be executed in flow of application. So
Okay.
that is what my understanding.
Okay.
It's a serverless computing
Correct.
environment, Shadab.
Yeah. Okay. So we are talking about the serverless, and what serverless mean that you actually behind the scene there'll be a server, but you don't have to manage those. Okay, and it will be available as per your request whenever you want. You can scale up those things. So today we'll cover function app as well as logic app. Both is having interrelation in between, and both works actually seamlessly together. And actually the function is more towards the coding part. Okay, so you just write a small set of code and you deploy to Azure, and it runs, and it has both the features like you told, the serverless. Yeah, you can choose compute as whenever it executes that getting charged. You can also link with the service plan. So yesterday we have created an app service plan, so you can also link with that. So we'll come to that. So AWS Lambda also gives you the similar feature. Okay, so if you are coming from the AWS background, you can use the Lambda. Okay, so what is the thing? I'll just see. Earlier we have, you can say here, we had the monolithic application. Monolithic architecture. Okay, so what you having that time, you have a UI. Then you have business logic. Then you have your
Data access layer.
data access. Okay, and then you have some database here. Okay. Now coming to the architecture of microservices. Okay. Microservice architecture, what it says, okay, you create your UI here. Okay, and then you have some database created. You can have multiple DB. Now you have to create microservices. As much as possible, you can break this business logic layer. So a smaller piece, whatever you can do, that's possible. Okay. So you don't have to think, like drill down till the smaller layer and keep it simple. Like my microservices will do a small set of work. Okay, that a small set, you don't think that small, why we are writing a small set of code. Don't think about that. So just you start creating microservice which should do a specific set of work. Okay, you can have one micro, you can have multiple microservices, hundreds of microservices you can create. Okay, that's not a problem. So what happening here, your UI will connect to microservices, microservices will do their work. So this is what microservices architecture says. So what we used to do, we used to write a long set of code. Like if we have to fetch up product details from some of the website, what we'll do, we'll process logging, we'll fetch the data, even we go for the payment. So we'll write all this code in one logical layer and we'll use that as a service. Now what microservices say, you don't do that. It's like you have to, it should be highly maintainable, testable, loosely coupled, independently deployable. So what we are achieving here is, here we have microservices. Okay, so this microservices can be independently deployable, testable, everything can be done. Okay, if you want to scale, you can easily scale this service. You can go here and scale this service. So like let's have an example. Like if I'll say you to create a service to send a mail, SMS and WhatsApp. Okay, so what you will go, you have to develop a three different service. You can't go and develop one service which does all these three jobs. So you have to develop these three different services. Even you can like drill down, like if you have to get a email ID from some database, you can have a separate service for that. After getting the service, again you do email job. So it should be completely separate. You don't have to link each other or overload your service with the different capabilities or different work. So that's the microservices architecture says. Okay, so what we are going to do nowadays, what the monolithic application that client says that I don't want monolithic application, just go with the microservices architecture. Okay, so problem with the monolithic application is that we just go and write the code in the same programming language. Like if you're a .NET expert, you write all the code in the .NET. If you're a Java expert, people will write the code in the Java. Okay, so here we don't want to do that. Okay, so if you are creating a microservices, you can directly go and write, you are free to write any language, code in any language, and that you can deploy. Okay, first of all, the main thing is the function is the code first approach, where you have to write the code, you have to deploy and use, and that should do a specific work. So here our function can be used to create a microservice, and actually it's a example of a microservices. Whenever the you say that I can create a microservices, yes, function is the important tool of this. So coming to that, what Azure function does, that it's actually when you deploy a Azure function, it gives you the HTTP hook, like HTTP URL, which can be used anywhere. So it's a API, it's like API. So you are getting a URL which can be used
అట్లే
anywhere.
ఒక్కసారిగా తాగేస్తావు ఇంకేం అసలు.
Uh, can you please go on mute, please? Yeah. So another thing, like it can be scheduled. Okay, you can schedule your HTTP your functions. Another thing, like it always integrate with your Azure inside whatever Azure offerings you have, like Cosmos DB, Storage Blob, Queue, Event Grid, and you can integrate with any services which Microsoft actually provides. Okay, so another important thing, like if you are using agile methodology and you or deliver your codes in the sprint. So if I say you have to just do a small changes in your code, so what you will do, you go and change the code, but you have to analyze like where this code will impact. So if you have created a small microservices, you easily come to know, okay, this code only will be changed, and you are changing some code, it's breaking some other codes. That should not be happening. Okay, so that's the main feature where we are achieving from the Azure function. Okay. Coming to the microservices architecture, actually the Azure, which offers you the three options actually, and from that you can use your microservices architecture and you can build your microservice architecture. Not only Azure function, there are three different ways. Okay, one is the Azure function, second is the Docker image, and third is a Azure service fabric. Okay, so what it does, there are like you can say Azure giving you microservice. Okay, we have the three options. One is the Azure function. Second one is Docker image. Okay, this is also called container. Will be deployed in the container, and you will be using AKS, that is Azure Kubernetes Services. Okay, Azure Kubernetes Services is an orchestrated tool which helps you to deploy your container inside the Azure. Okay, and which manages your Docker container, which is help. So orchestrated tool means it's not AKS is a Docker. Okay, so it's managing the Docker images. What it does, you know, the orchestra. Orchestra means who managing the entire team. Okay, so that's happening with the AKS. And next one, you have the Azure Service Fabric. Okay, so this is the three ways which are like Azure is providing you to create a microservice. Okay, so we'll be learning this now. Docker image we'll see in the infrastructure as a services when we learn like how to create a Docker, how to deploy Docker, how to use AKS. Those we'll be seeing. Azure Service Fabric will, if we have time, we'll be able to cover those as well. So what it does actually, when you are going with to deploy with the Azure function, you can write in any language. Azure gives you the features to write code in any language like C#, Java, PHP, Python, and it supports the scripting language as well. Okay, so you have the so many feature. Okay, and next, the Docker image. What Docker image does? So Docker image gives you you can combine how Docker image will be working. Like you will be combining all the code, dependency, DLL, and everything clubbed together. You bind it as an image and just upload to the Docker Hub, and then use that in your Kubernetes services or anywhere whichever you want to use. Benefit of the Docker, it will be independent, like you can run on Linux, Windows, Mac. So nowadays, whenever the companies move towards the microservices, they prefer a Docker. Okay, so they just wanted to create a Docker image so that later on, if they want to move out of the Microsoft Azure, they can easily take their Docker image and deploy it to the AWS anywhere. So that's the benefit they achieve from the Docker. And next is Azure Kubernetes services like Azure Service Fabric. Okay, so it will be more towards the Azure coding infrastructure point of view. So you have to follow their Azure like coding structure, classes, and all those things, and then you have to build. What Azure Fabric, like yesterday we have seen the web app, like we can see the Azure SQL. So all those runs on the Azure Service Fabric behind the scene. So Azure Fabric Service Fabric is one of the important thing if you want to stick with the Azure. Okay, so your all the features of the mostly in Azure runs on the Azure Service Fabric because it can be scaled easily, and it creates in fraction of second it creates a multiple instance, and it will be very easily to deploy, so easily to manage. So those things are there. So these are the three ways which you can achieve microservices. Any question before I move to another step? Okay. What we'll be achieving, you will be writing like a small set of code, and what function does. If you talk about the SQL function, you write function in .NET as well. So you just write a small set of code, take a parameter, do the specific task, and return the value. So that's the function means. Okay, it should not be so much complex. You can't write one function inside the other function and make it complex. So that will be overhead. If you want to do work two functions together, you have to use somewhere in between, like you can use the queue, you can use another method to integrate with that, so that you will not having dependency for the other function to go, and that has to be completed before you go further. So like you can do that. Okay. Just I'll move to the next slide. Okay, which I just spoke about this, that you can you have the different language support as well as the scripting language support you have here. Okay. Then see the next thing it says, there's the integration with the different application. What we have here. So Azure Functions can work with the any service within the Azure, or you can use this webhook outside of Azure as well. So let's suppose that here we have example like in Cosmos DB, like this is the database which NoSQL database which Azure offers. Okay. So we have any data which is coming in Cosmos DB, and you want to see like what kind of data it is, and based on the data you want to take action. Okay, so you can write Azure function. So whenever the data is inserted into the Cosmos DB, you just trigger your Azure function and do a specific job. Okay, either you can call event hub, event grid, or you can put in the service bus and do some other operation. So those you can do it here. So it's Azure function can work with anything. Okay, so we have the so much bindings and connectors available in the Azure function, which can connect with the any Azure related services.
Shadab, what is Twilio?
Yeah,
is it an Azure service?
No, this Twilio is a different service for the SMS. Okay, so this is the third party service.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Shadab.
Which will be used for the SMS or voice message. So that will be provided by this. So you can use this as well in your Azure function.
Okay.
Shadab, this is Karthik.
Yeah.
So you said Azure function, it just takes, expects some parameter, it performs some task and then returns result, right?
Correct.
So will it expose, what kind of parameters or what action it does and what is the return type and all, or like?
Yeah, that you are free to define, because I told you, you are free to write any set of code, either in C#, Java, PHP. You can write any set of code what it has to do, and
right.
that job it will do.
Right. Generally, if you do in services, either we'll get a WSDL file that will describe what this service is and what it takes and what it returns.
Yeah,
So something like that will it expose, because you are saying, I mean, this Azure function can be written in any language or it can be used by any language.
correct.
So how it will expose, like what it is expecting,
Yeah.
what it will return.
So you can see here there is Azure function that Java program has been written. Okay.
Okay.
So you can use the post method, and then you can do some of the operation which you want. Again, you have in Python, you can define your input parameter, you can do that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's
Okay.
possible. Okay. Let's
Okay.
jump into the demo, and we'll come back to this later slide.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Um, okay. So first of all, as yesterday also we have discussed, uh, we need to create a resource group. Okay. So today I'm going to create a resource group here. Day 2. I'm just using AZ-204. You can define a tag here and create. Okay. So my resource group is ready here. Okay. Now I'm going to create my function app. Just you can go here, function app. Okay. So the function app we are going to create is a collection of multiple function. Okay. You create a function app which relate to the function logical unit or to easier management. So we are creating a function app. Okay. You can create multiple function inside this. Okay. Let's choose the day 2. Function app 2. No, it's not available. Okay, so it generally checks globally, because see, this is the Azure website .NET is getting deployed, so it should be a unique name. Okay, just I'll write 01 November. Okay, here again you have the option to deploy your code, or you can deploy a Docker container. Okay, so we'll be going now with the code. And I want to deploy .NET Core, Node.js, PHP, Java. You can do any runtime. Then you have to select the version. Where you want to deploy, you can select. I generally prefer East-US because most of the Azure services will be available inside the US, because it depends. Sometime your services will not be available in some region, and you will be not be able to find those. So for that like development purpose, I just prefer the East-US. Okay. And generally this you select based on your client preference or client choice, wherever they have, because nearer will be easy for them for the bandwidth purpose and all. Okay, so just moving to the hosting. Okay, so here is the storage. Why this function app is asking me to create a storage? Okay, so this function app, whenever you write, because this is the serverless architecture, and whatever you are writing in the function, like whatever the code you are writing or whatever the logs getting created, it will be stored inside this storage account. Okay, so that we'll see. So one storage will be associated with this. I can give new storage name, storage account. Function first name. That's more length. Okay. Function. Okay. Okay. So I have given. Okay. So it has been came here. Now here we are asking the operating system. Okay. So either you can deploy on Linux operating system or Windows operating system. Okay. So that's option you have. Next, you have plan. Okay, this is what we are talking about. You have the, if you are talking about serverless, you go for the consumption. Okay, and this is what it's giving. Okay, so what, when we should go for the consumption, when we should go for the premium, when we should go for the app service. So I told you that you can deploy on app service plan as well, where you have the multiple option to select your sizing. What benefits you get generally, if you see that you have the so much of code and that requires more resources, and this much resources will be capable enough to run my services, so you can go for the app services. What happened, the consumption, if you're going for the consumption, Microsoft says that based on the available resources. Okay, let's suppose you have selected any of the region where the resources is already utilized more. Okay, and you when your code is running, you might not be getting enough resources for your function app to run. Okay, so that time you might get a slowness on your function. Okay, so that's the consumption. Okay, but if the data center is having the enough resources, your function will run smooth, no problem in that. Okay, so for the production and all, you can like select the premium one, and you can select like 3 GB memory is enough for my this set of code. You can use this app service plan. Okay, also I can use the existing app service plan which I have created earlier. That's also possible. Like your website is already running on one web app service plan, and you can use the same web app service plan for your function app as well. Okay, so if you're not both, if you have to estimate that, yeah, it's not taking so much of load, or it's fine for this much resources enough for my both the application, so you can go for that as well. So now I am taking consumption based plan. Consumption based plan, whenever the hits comes, how long your code is getting executed, so all those will be calculated based on the consumption works actually. Okay, next is the application insight. So for your log analytics, if you want to check any issues with your application, so generally this is will be enabled. Okay, so it will store some of the your telemetry data and logs, and those things will be available inside that. So I don't want now. I'll just go again. These tags, you can define your tag name, like this is the development environment, this is the testing environment. So those you can define your tagging. That's fine. We move to next. And create. Okay. So by the time it's getting created, I'll just go to the Visual Studio. Okay, so this deployment is okay. Here you can see this is creating a storage, then your serverless form. Like if you have the web app, it will create a like not web app. I'm saying web app, service plan. So that will be created. And okay, so what I can do, so there's two options to create a function. One, you can go in the portal, okay, and you can start creating function here. Okay, so this is the function app has been created inside my resource group. I can go to the day 2 resource group. I can see here my function app should be there. It takes time sometime. Okay, so here we have the function app. So when you click on the function app, you can go and write your function here. click on add and just go. Okay, so what all options you have? See, you can create a HTTP trigger, timer, queue storage trigger, and you have so much triggers here. So based on that trigger, it actually start creating your like your function will get execute. Okay, so same thing you can. I'll just show in the Visual Studio as well. I can create this from your project. So here you can see Azure function. Day 2. Okay. So while creating, see, it's asking me what kind of function you want to create. You want to create empty, you want blob trigger, you want Cosmos trigger, you want HTTP trigger, IoT, queues, service bus, timer base. So all this is giving me the option to create. Okay. So I'm just creating here, and then it asking me the function to create authentication level. So what authentication level you want? Generally, when you create here, it says that uh, creating HTTP trigger and function, it will be function level or anonymous level. So you weigh what authentication level you want to set. Every function you want to set authentication level, that will not be required, because if you set anonymous and you create, and this function will be anonymous, but you can still go ahead and set the authentication level over the function app. Okay, so you can set your authentication on the function. Okay, so that will be like so that will cover almost all the function that will be covered inside this. Okay, so I'll go here and create a HTTP trigger in Visual Studio. Okay. See, you can see here you have the function is created. So it takes time to restoring your packages and all those things. It takes time. Okay, so this function is created. Okay, and what it does, it's like HTTP trigger which I have created, which takes the name parameter. Okay, and it returns the message. Okay, so if I'll go here and just execute it here. Okay, so it's returning me a HTTP endpoint. Okay, I can just go with this and browse. So it's saying the HTTP trigger function has been successfully. But what it's expecting a name parameter. If I enter, it says that, hello Shadab, this is the HTTP function executed successfully. Okay, so I have created a small function which accepts the name parameter. If I don't pass the name, it's giving me this result, else it's giving me this result. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, so any question? Not asking.
Shadab Karthik here. So
Yes.
now, I mean, where is it actually running? Is it in Visual Studio only, or
Yeah.
it's actually running on?
Currently, it's running on the local host. You
Okay.
can see here in the URL.
Okay. Okay.
So it's local host. Okay.
So nowhere we have connected it to Azure till time, right?
We are doing development locally. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I told you there is two option. Okay. So one, you can directly go here in the portal, and you can just start creating here. Okay, so which one is the preferred way, you will ask? Okay, so if
Right.
you have a small set of code, like a small, you just write, want to write a small code, you are fine with that code, you can just go here and create and just uh, create a function.
Okay.
Okay, and you go here and you can write your code. Okay, HTTP trigger, it's open function, go to the code. And you have the code ready here. You can do this modification here. You can write your code.
Okay.
So here we have, this is the function.json. That is actually the binding file. And that you'll be writing here the bindings. Like bindings is which application you are connecting. Like I'm trying to get the data from the storage account. So I'll be writing here a storage account from where we have to pull, where we have to send. So all those information will be in the binding file. Readme is nothing. It's a readme file, and run.cs is your main code. You can change here. You can use this run and test to test the application as well here. Okay, so this is the one way. Okay, another way which I was showing you with doing the Visual Studio. Okay, so this you have seen here. Okay, another I want to add another function here. Okay, I can go here and click on add Azure function, and now I want to create a function 2. I have given the name. Click on next. So now I want a trigger for the queue trigger. Okay, so here will be my queue name, and just you can click on OK. Now I want to read some value from my queue. Okay, so here we'll be giving the queue name. Okay, and the connection string will be passed in your inside here web storage. So you will be using passing your storage connection string and the queue name. Okay, let's move to the. I've just morning. I've created one storage account. I'll use the storage account. Okay, so you know that a storage account will come later, maybe next class somewhere we'll cover. So a storage account gives you the blob, file share, table, and queue, a specific transaction. So now I want to use a storage account, and I want to read some value from the queue. Okay, I have created a one queue here, which name is the test queue. Okay. Okay, so we need a queue name. First thing, we'll put a queue name here. Yes. And we'll put this storage account connection string. Just a minute. We'll be using this access key. We need this connection string. Just copy this connection string and put it here. Okay. Now, if I run this function, means my both function will be active. Okay, one for the webhook and another one is to read data from the queue. Okay, so here is the queue trigger and this is the one. Okay, now I go in the my queue and just put some message in the queue. And message test. It disappears. What happened? Here my trigger, this test queue has been pulled the data. You can see here test on 1st November. So we have seen that multiple triggers you can perform using your function app. Okay, so you have seen this in the Visual Studio how we can do that, and using the trigger function as well as the HTTP hook. Now you have done with the development. What you have to do, you have to deploy this code into the Azure portal. You can just go ahead and same way we have did for the website. Similar way you can go ahead and download a publishing profile and push the code. You can go to function app, get publishing profile. I got the publishing profile. I'll just go publish this function app, import publishing, import profile, browse, function app, publishing profile, finish. Just click on publish. So it's taking some time. And done. Okay. And if you go to the function, we have the two functions ready here. One is the HTTP, one is the queue. One will be reading my queue, another one is reading my HTTP. Okay, so this way you can go ahead and create, build, and deploy. Even you can test it here. So this is the way which we can create. Okay, so any doubt till now in the demo? Very good. Okay, so we can do Java programming, we can do Python. Okay. Another thing like scaling the hosting, you can always scale. So what happens, I showed you the consumption plan, and then you have the premium plan, and then you have the app service plan. So these are the plans which having, you can just go there and have a look on those, how you can change the plan. And here also you have the feature of deployment slot, because this all are the family of application: web app, function app, and logic app. Will begin taking to next topic. So these all will have the similar kind of feature which you can use. Again, you have some hybrid connection as well available here. So those all things. Okay, well, during this plan, what happened? There is a storage account has been created. So you can go there and you can see inside the blob. There are, see, you can see here function has been deployed here, host has been created, some logs will be created over there. So there are so many things inside the function, Azure itself is managing those things. Okay, so that's why the storage account is created with that. Okay.
Shadab, this is Varaprasad.
Yeah.
Is there any possible to test the function apps in portal?
Yeah, you have that. T2 function app. You can go to this function and you have HTTP hook. Yeah, this is the code and test. Okay, so here you can function that you can view that. You can pass the parameter, input parameter. You can see the output, what response it is giving, and it's saying the same error. Okay, if I pass here in the and then I click on run, it's saying the same because it's accepting the name parameter. Or I need to add in add parameter maybe. Yeah, hello talking clouds. So it's very much possible everywhere. Like you can develop the code, deploy the code in the portal, test it, or you can do it the Visual Studio if you are familiar with Visual Studio, writing some code, and that's possible.
So I mean, Shadab, this is Karthik.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can keep any breakpoint, something like that, how we do in Visual Studio here, or we have to do it in Visual Studio only?
We have to do it with Visual Studio only.
Okay.
Breakpoint and all will not be possible in the portal. Yeah, but I showed you the another thing like
Right.
enabling the log analytics and seeing the logs over there. So that's possible.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So again, you can always use these three plans which function offers, like consumption-based plan, premium, and app service plan. So these three plan we have went through those. Okay, so deploying the this covers you that how the function is getting hosted. So your function can be deployed in your local dev machine. You can have a OS, Windows, Mac, Linux, and then you can deploy in the container as well. And those things you can do. Okay. So Azure function, how like develop environment. This is the hosting environment. You have the Windows and Linux. You deploy your code. Use consumption-based plan. You have the Windows, Linux. You deploy in Docker. You deploy a function, and then you have the app service plan. You can select, and then you can go ahead. Another thing is you have another feature here, the on-premises. Let's suppose I want to host this Azure function in on-premise, okay, in my data center. So you might have heard that Azure Stack. Azure Stack gives you the feature to enable your data center as the Azure. So there gives you some of the software and those things you have to install in your data center, and your on-premises work similar to the Azure. Okay, and then you can deploy your port over there. So that's the feature, like Azure functions can be hosted multiple way. Okay, so next coming to the trigger, your service, any web service like Azure, Azure is calling your function app, it gets execute and it's giving the result. Now type of triggers. So you have the multiple triggers here. You might have seen that like Cosmos DB, Blob. If I'm going to create here, you have this multiple trigger. Okay, so what trigger you want to use? Okay, HTTP trigger and timer. Okay, so the multiple triggers is available in this. Okay, add functions. Okay. So you have the multiple triggers. These are the triggers whenever you want to connect your application, you have the triggers with that. So these are the triggers which offers. And coming to the input and bindings, I showed you that there is a binding file which will be either in the Azure portal, or here you have the binding file which we have to update. Okay, so binding file is nothing that which service you want to connect, you have to give a connection string or endpoint for that application, and your function app will work with that. Okay, so here is saying declaration where to connect your data from your code. Okay, so you might have to give username, password, URL, or anything with the way it connects. You have the schedule trigger. I already covered this. Like, and another thing which I told you, like if you have Cosmos DB and some document is getting created, you want to take some action, and then you want to push it to blob, you want to push it to log, you want to create some event hub so that other application can take those event and process those data. So that's as well, it's possible. This is showing the integration with VNet, how we have to do that. Okay, so this requires a premium plan. If you want to use connection with the VNet, so you have to move it to the premium plan. Azure virtual networking. Okay, so here like internet, if you have the premium plan with the functions, you can create a VNet and you can connect with the another virtual machines. Next, coming to the best practice, which Microsoft says about this. Okay, so first point is saying that avoid long running function, like your function takes such a long time, okay, due to some dependency, so you should avoid those. Okay, so let's suppose that you are calling some other service, okay, and you think that that will take time, so just avoid this. Try to use a queue mechanism, okay, so that it will be easily tracked over there. Okay, next is that you are writing a stateless code. You should write a stateless code. You should not use a state in the function. Okay, that's the thing. But that's possible very much. You can use always a state, but you should write a stateless functions. Cross function communication, like it says that like if you want to communicate, like I told you that some of the during functions and Azure Logic App are built in the managed state. So if you want to create some application, you have the another function called durable function, okay, which creates a stateful application. And you want to configure like one function. Once the one function is get executed, you have to call another function. So you have another durable function which is here. So that's possible as well. So these are the some best practice which says. Okay, so this is the Visual Studio Code, or if you have a VS Visual Studio installed with you, so you can always go ahead and create your function, build your function, deploy local, test locally, and then you can push it to the Azure. So this I already covered here. This is was the only example in the given here in the queue. Okay, in function 2. In function 2 here we have to put the queue name. Okay, and then it's using the classes and all those things, which again here binding is there. So binding I told you as it's a connector kind of thing which you have to put. So this is again talking about the code function.json run cs file which is having. Again, this is the deployment method which talks about. So coming to the durable function, which I told you, durable function. So what durable function means? Actually, okay. Durable function, like you will be creating a stateful function, okay, and okay. So it's like you are creating one function, and you want to take input from another function, and then you want to execute it, so that you can achieve with the durable function, and it creates a state as well. Okay, so it's a orchestration activity entry and client. So it's saying the defining function workflow. The function takes being orchestrated, stateless, and read update. What see the devolution function scenario, the chaining process. Okay, the chaining process means like you want to run a function that gives output. Again, another function get executed, it gives output, then another function gets executed, and then last function. So here is the chaining. Actually, it has been written. So like if you say here, uh, function 1 is getting executed, then it's the variable of x is used in the function 2. Whatever the function is returning, you are using again that in the other function, and it's get executed. So this is the chaining which you can achieve with the durable function. Next is the fan out and fan in. Fan out and fan in is the pattern like parallel processing. Okay, so you have one function which start triggering on some of the request. Okay, it giving the it's getting processed, and then you have the three different function which has to run and get the result out of that, and then you process it into the different function. Okay, so here you can see here, when all task.when all will execute only when this all the function is getting completed. So you can achieve with this. Next, you have async HTTP API calls. You can do that asynchronously. And these are the some set of codes which has been there. It's talking about a deliverable some function in a scenario like if you take example of HTTP API scenario, and you are exposing some endpoint for the external monitoring and long running orchestration, and you just monitor those for the logging purpose and monitoring purpose. So this you can achieve. Next is like durable function scenario where human interaction is required. Okay, so this also can be achieved. Okay, so what is happening here, you request for approval and you wait for the some particular time for the manager to approve, then you process the approval or you do escalation. So you can have a manager approval in between in the function as well. So that's possible in the durable. So durable is like long running dependent functions. One function is dependent on other functions. A stateful application you can achieve with this. So this is again the request approval flow has been taken place, and this is the example of the code. So these are things which you can achieve. So more you have this function app more on the coding standpoint where you can achieve all those scenarios. So any question from the function?
Yes, Shadab. I have a question. For developing these functions, should we need to should be familiar with Azure SDK, and the Azure, if it is, should we install them on our development environment?
uh, Development environment, if you have the dev server, you should have the Visual Studio or VS Code and for the development purpose. Okay, because if the big code you are going to write something which is more having dependency, all those you will not be able to write properly in the portal. So you should have the Visual Studio or VS Code, and you should have the Azure SDK to have this function app. Like if I want to add any application here, like if I go and create a new project, we should have Azure SDK installed. Then only you will get all the Azure related stuff here.
Okay. And I am from Java background, so which IDE will be suitable for this one?
Use the latest one, Visual Studio 2019. Community edition, you can download that. That is free. So
Even for other languages also, Python, Java, it supports everything?
Python and Java, yes, I think it should support.
Okay.
Okay. So you are getting here everything like Azure related, Azure function, Azure job, web job, resource group, even you can create from here. So everything is possible from here. So you should install the Azure SDK for that.
And we need to learn the functions, basic functions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Shadab. That answers my question.
Anything else which you want to discuss about the serverless, microservices, functions? Any questions if you have in mind?
Any durable functions? Is there any? It is like a chain system.
Chaining system, yeah.
Yeah. If any failovers, like any break in that one, how can you resolve that one?
Like if you're saying any error or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the try catch block, like similar like .NET, which you write exception blocking and exception catch. On exception, if you want to send a mail or anything, another function to trigger again to do some activity, that's possible. So you should handle.
But
you should
it will
handle
be that action will be failure. Entire action will be failure, because it will be failure. It try class back. It will be redirect to another mail or anything. It will be entire transition will be failure, I think.
Yeah, you can do so. You should be writing the proper code for that. Generally, you should close the variable and those whatever the pattern generally you follow with the .NET code. So you can follow easily with this.
Sometimes database issues or anything will be that is a infinity loop, like that one. It will having a problems at that time. Can we revoke the function, restart the function? Is there any possibility between?
You can stop the execution and all those things. If it's running from long time, you can just go and like suspend those instances. That's possible in the Azure console, admin console. But you should have the proper access. Like in the production scenario, sometimes developer will not have the access to the resource groups. So generally, yesterday also we have spoke about these, that generally in the real scenario, you will be having one for production, one for development, one for staging, and you might not be having a production access, production resource group access. You will not be able to see it. Okay, so means like whoever is supporting their production, they can go and terminate those instances. That's possible.
Okay.
So we are good with this now. We'll start the logic app. Just give me 5 minutes. Okay, 8:30 we'll start. No? If you want some break, then it's fine.